in red meat, in a hamburger. That's what cracked my tooth. So the food affected my teeth. I know it's hard to believe. Shocking information. What's the best food for your teeth? Is it an herb growing in Tibet somewhere in the high Himalayas that will regrow you'll drop 3 sets of teeth out and you'll regrow your new set? You heard about that? Who's heard about that? Is that the herb?
What is it? What herb is it?
No! Here's the deal! The most important innovations of the future, right? There's no more headlines in the future. That's gone. Boom, gone. The most important innovations of the future are in this area. Retooling all our assumptions and looking at them scientifically. Retooling all our assumptions and looking at them scientifically. I've had, so many scientists, doctors, no, you can't eat raw food, you can't eat raw food, blah, 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 blah. Maybe you can, I don't know, it's working for me. You know what I mean? The assumptions that are in all herbalism, all Chinese medicine, all Ayurveda, all folk herbalism around the planet might be all wrong. I mean, the Earth at the center of the universe might be wrong. That we're at the top of the chain of intelligence might be wrong. That's impossible. I know. So we gotta get it. So the place where the innovations are coming is in the questioning of the basic assumptions, like cooking. It's such a basic assumption. Most people just you don't talk to a fish about water. Why?
They're not aware of it.
They couldn't even see it. It's the last thing they're going to think of. In all the areas, and there's no question that in my personal research, all the science projects I've ever been involved in, that the biggest discoveries were those little things. What basic assumption are we missing here? Or are we overlooking? And maybe that assumption's wrong. And that is the innovations of the future. So we're going to see that as we develop further. And where does that come into with your teeth? That the exotic thing that regrows your teeth that's very far away in the Himalayas somewhere isn't actually very far away at all. In fact, it's always the closest food to you in all situations. The #1 disease in the world is gum disease. The #1 solution to that disease is always around you, wherever you are on the planet. It doesn't matter if you're above the tree line, in the Arctic. And that solution is grass. Chewing grass. I'm probably the biggest proponent in the world right now of chewing wild grasses. I think that's one of the most important things you can do to reconnect yourself to nature. And North America is the home of wild grasses, 2,000 different varieties here. And so when I'm out on a hike, I'm testing different grasses and eating them. And there's amazing nutrition when you really start to crack the code of what's out there. Why would I do that? It feels good. It's good for my teeth. But it also, there's an information that comes in. I don't believe that you can get completely educated from food bought in a supermarket, even if it's organic, that has been grown on a farm. There's some bits of information and bites of information, literally, metaphorically, and metaphysically, that are missing. And where you really get re-educated is when you get onto the wild food and go, let's see what's going on here. One of the great things about all sea vegetables is that they are all wild foods. And that's why they're important to have in your diet. If the mineral equation is not important to you. That it's a wild food and it's original, so it's exactly as it was created. One of the reasons why I'm a wild berry hunter is because I want that original food experience. And I know you do too, or you wouldn't even be here right now. The original food experience. And that actually, that simple original food experience, out hunting huckleberries, is meditation to me. I'm sorry, I'm not going to go in a cave, in a closet, in a city, and meditate on divine light. Sorry. It's all good. Here's meditating on divine light. Out in the huckleberry patch. That's meditating on divine light. That's holy and that's sacred. And some foods are extremely sacred. And the most sacred food of all is
honey. Honey.
You guys are smart. Chocolate.
Oh.
Most sacred food in the world, most important food in the world. Why is chocolate the most important food in the world? One is, from totally a metaphysical perspective, the plant diva that is in the cacao tree is the most identical to a human soul in all the plant world. That's one angle. Another angle is the mineral content of cacao is exactly what we need on a day-to-day basis to keep us from going bankrupt in certain different areas based on stress. Magnesium, chromium, and iron. Cacao is highest in those three of any food. You couldn't name another food that's higher in those three things. You couldn't name one. In fact, it's so high in those three minerals that it's in the therapeutic dose, meaning it has more than what you need on a day-to-day basis by about 10 times. So it's a therapeutic delivery. That's amazing. Vitamin C. Cacao, unbeknownst, in the beginning we were doing research on cacao and we sent it into the labs, and we got all this data back. One of them was on vitamin C. And I was like, it's got to be a mistake. Cacao, raw cacao is one of the highest vitamin C content foods you can find anywhere. And it's a nut. It's by far the highest of any nut in the world. Antioxidants. Cacao is the #1 antioxidant food in the world, period. That's the end of that story. 20 times higher than green tea, 30 times higher than red wine, 15 times higher than blueberries. Nothing else is even close. Everything else is a joke, actually, when you compare it to cacao, the #1 antioxidant food. Now, if you powder cloves down to a little fine little powder, you would get a higher antioxidant score on cloves. But if you powder cacao, you get the same increase in antioxidant score. So when you see these numbers out there, they do lie to you on the antioxidant score, the rawks score. Because I could take any botanical you could name. Let's say it was, what's your favorite fruit? Apples. Let's say we took an apple, we dried it, we dehydrated it, then we put it in the rawks testing machine. It would come back with a score of about 10. Let's say I crushed that down into 1 billion different pieces, grinded it down, put it in that rawks score machine, guess what it would come out as? 60. It would increase it like that. Acai is very high. Acai and goji berries and bee pollen are like the next tier down from cacao. Acai, bee pollen, goji berries, and just underneath them is like marine phytoplankton, spirulina, blue-green algae, and then you get into like the berries. And the berries are enormously important. Here's how a shaman understands the power of plants. You have poor eyesight? No problem. Go eat all those little different colored berries out there. Why? Well, you see in color, don't you? You want to see better colors? Go eat those colors. Here's what science figured out. The other way. They started tracking antioxidants and where they show up in your body when you eat them from berries. Guess where they found out they showed up? In the eyes. Then they started going, wait a second, there's a connection between antioxidants in the eyes, and then they discovered this interesting thing. That the antioxidant itself is actually a pigment of color. That's what an antioxidant actually is. It's a color. So it's a color of light. Isn't that fascinating?
Yeah.
And a shaman could just understand that intuitively in 5 seconds. Same thing. Now, you know what's funny? I went down to the Amazon and I met with a shaman down there. He didn't know who I was. I didn't know who he was. I just showed up there at this place in the middle of the forest. I'm talking 2 hours up the Amazon River, 2 hours into the forest. There, I mean, you can't just freak out and run out of there. No planes, no chemtrails, no nothing. So we're hanging out there, and so finally I sit down with him, and I'm like, I was with my friend Anita. She speaks Spanish very well. I said, Anita, ask him what he thinks of cacao for me, please. So she says in Spanish, what do you think of cacao? He's 80 years old. He's drank ayahuasca 3,500 times. He was one of Peru's greatest sculptors or painters until he actually had an accident where he fell out of some tree or something and tore the tendons out of both his hands right here. So he lost the motion there between those two joints. Other than that, he's in perfect physical health living in the Amazon. So I asked him, what do you think about cacao? Here's what he said. Cacao, you can live on cacao. That's what he's first thing out of his mouth. Second thing, he says, we just planted 3,000 cacao trees with the kids from the village down there, over on an island in the middle of the Amazon River. Because we believe that that's the future. Saving the planet with chocolate is what it's all about. Because the farmer stays on the farm because cacao has to be cultivated in an intact rainforest environment.